Rather lads, welcome back to Cossy's Arsenal podcast. My name is Cossy. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in all parts of the world. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to a brand new video. We have two stories to talk about, one from the Marca and one from the Athletic. The one from Marca literally says that Arsenal are leading the race to sign Joao Felix, but according to the Athletic and David Ornstein, Arsenal really want to sign MUKHAYLO Mudryk, and they believe a deal can happen for less than 100 million euros. So literally one story trashes the other, but I would love the Joao Felix story to be true. However, I cannot dispute stories and news and information from the Athletic. Hit the like button. Let's get this video to 300 likes. Subscribe to the podcast. And in the comment section, let's have this vote for once and for all. Is it Joao Felix? Is it MUKHAYLO Mudryk? It would be very interesting if we did this live. And I think we might do this kind of poll live today if I get some time. But we're going to be diving into those two stories and trying to understand what exactly is happening with these two guys, what is exactly happening with these two deals, and which one matters most to Arsenal. Now, first and foremost, earlier today, I talked about Joao Felix and his availability and him leaving Atletico Madrid basically in January. The Marca have written in the last few hours that Arsenal have moved up the list of signing Joao Felix ahead of clubs like Bayern, Manchester City, Manchester United, PSG, and a couple of others. And they're saying basically Arsenal are now the leading contenders to sign Joao Felix. It's a very, very flattering story. It's a very, very huge story for us to get as Arsenal fans. But I actually don't think it is true. Yeah, look, I love Joao Felix and everybody knows I do, but I don't think we are leading the race to sign him. I don't think we are beating Bayern. I don't think we are beating PSG to signing him. I don't think we're going to pay the 100 million euros that they actually want. And this is where the Athletic and the David Ornstein story actually makes a lot of sense, because David Ornstein has also come out and said, right now, the top priority for Arsenal is still MUKHAYLO Mudryk. Right from last summer, we wanted him, and he says the club have already discussed this internally. They've looked at him for quite some time, and they believe he is the right player to come in. They will not change their transfer strategy. Remember, we talked about that in the morning. Arsenal don't want to change their transfer strategy. They want to keep on looking at the same players that they have already planned to bring in January. So, according to David Ornstein, it says at this moment, Arsenal's priority for the January transfer window is still MUKHAYLO Mudryk. And that's quite very interesting. No agreements, but conversations happening. And the 21-year-old Shakhtar Donetsk winger is very keen on the move. Sources say a deal can be done for lower than 100 million euros, which is their public valuation as well. That is in the latest piece written by David Ornstein in The Athletic. Now, listen, I think we've done a story about MUKHAYLO Mudryk being the priority. And what I said about this story is we had not yet gotten the real big sources to talk about it and give us those real confirmations. For example, now David Ornstein from The Athletic for me are bigger than Fabrizio Romano, but I think because Romano has become a really, really big figure in the transfer world, he seems bigger than publications like The Athletic. But The Athletic, for me, the most credible when it comes to outlets, the more credible than Sky, because for me, I've consumed a few stories, a few updates on Sky Sports, and they were trash. But at The Athletic, whenever they release something, whenever a journalist from The Athletic releases a story, you know it is 100% well-sourced and 100% well-researched as well. So this is the first major hint that Arsenal are 100% going to sign MUKHAYLO Mudryk. Remember, we talked about this when Fabrizio Romano released the information, and he said Arsenal have had contacts with the player. We've had contacts with Shakhtar as well. There is a very, very big gap between us and Shakhtar in terms of valuation, but we've told them that we want the player, and we've also told the player and his agents that we are actually interested in signing him. MUKHAYLO Mudryk loves the club. MUKHAYLO Mudryk is keen on moving to Arsenal, moving to the Premier League, and trying out something very, very different. So for me, this one kills all the stories that we've actually been talking about of all these other wingers, Kudus, Facundo Torres, Joao Felix, it just kills the story, because I think what we've seen with Mikel Arteta and Edu in the past 2 years, when they want a player, they are willing and they will go to the end to try to sign him. Whether it was Martin Odegaard, us waiting for a whole summer to try and to sign him at the end, whether it was Thomas Partey for us waiting for a whole summer for us to sign him, you can easily see that Arsenal scout their players, they spot the player, they scout him, they spend time looking at that player, and when the player ticks the requirement box, when we are satisfied that this is the guy we should be signing, in the end, we don't go for any other options. We go for that same guy. And it's one explanation as to why many of our transfer signings in the past 2 years have actually been a success. Look at Ramsdale, look at Ben White, look at Tomiyasu, look at Gabriel Magalhaes, look at look at Partey, you look at Odegaard, you look at Fabio Vieira, you look at all these players, Zinchenko and Gabriel Jesus. All these signings are actually a success because we give it time. We are not trying to sign so many players at a time in one position. We're trying to sign one player at a time per position. So MUKHAYLO Mudryk is the player that we are going to be discussing throughout December and January. I'm going to reiterate my thoughts on this one. It is not 100 million euros. Arsenal must not pay 100 million euros on MUKHAYLO Mudryk. It's going to be a boring replication of what Manchester City did with the Jack Grealish deal, and it will be disgusting. It will be absolutely weak negotiation from Arsenal. He is, in my opinion, right now, he's not even played in the World Cup. So I think all this kind of, UEFA Champions League boom should actually come down, or should have come down by now. And then how many goals did he score? 3-4 goals in the UEFA Champions League. And that actually doesn't make you a 100 million euro prospect. Yes, he's a very good young guy. He's gonna turn into one of the best wingers in the world. And I like him, and I love him so much. I love his style. And I don't think I would say, if Arsenal signed him, I don't think I would say we have gone with the wrong man, right? I think Joao Felix could be out of our league a little bit. He's that kind of, is that kind of woman you want, and he's out of your league. I think MUKHAYLO Mudryk is the woman you want. He's in your league. Probably gonna find some difficulties in convincing her, but she is in your league, right? And that is what I think about MUKHAYLO Mudryk. She's a woman in our league, and we've got to go all out and try to do this still. If this is what Mikel Arteta wants, if this is what Mikel feels will add value to his side, will add some kind of quality to his side. If he feels as a manager that on my project this is what is missing, then definitely we've got to go and get MUKHAYLO Mudryk. Because for me, I've said it right from day one. If you're going to keep Mikel Arteta as your manager, you've got to back him. You've got to stand by him. And the Kroenkes have done just that. They've given him the signings that he wants. Probably not all of them. And the small budget that he's going to work with in January might actually sound otherwise. But I think they've done so far so good in terms of signing him. So it's not 100 million euros, in my opinion. Don't be crazy. You cannot do that deal. It's absolutely crazy. I think the valuation might not be low though. So I don't think we're gonna run away with this one and pay like 30 million euros. That ain't gonna happen. That would have happened in the summer, and Shakhtar was smart. You give them that. Because it's January, I'm looking at 40 to 45 million euros, 50 million euros maximum. That is what I think the valuation is gonna be. I think Arsenal will try to negotiate their way out. We know now that the player wants to play for us. He's on our side. He's gonna apply a lot of pressure just to make sure that he leaves Shakhtar Donetsk, and that is to our own advantage. However much I feel like this kills the Kudus and Joao Felix story, I feel like it is it's a better story to talk about on the podcast, because it just brings out focus. It just brings out that focus that I think Arsenal should be having throughout January. We need to focus on one player and we need to chase that player, and we need to make sure that the player is attainable, his signature is attainable, and the club he's apparently playing for is willing to sell, and the price is also right. And that is a lot to figure out in January. Look, I love Kudus, and I think if there was one player that I would sign for Arsenal, and that player is African, from this World Cup, according to what we need, that player would be Kudus. He was sensational, absolutely sensational for Ghana. They are a little bit unlucky that they didn't go through the group stages. They played Uruguay in the last game, and I thought, I just felt like they didn't stand a chance. And even when they lost that game, although I'm African, I wasn't really disappointed. I think they really put up a very good fight in the group stages of the World Cup. But Kudus is one player I would really love Arsenal to sign. Still very young, value for money, but can Ajax let him go just after selling Anthony to Manchester United? Do Ajax really sell the players in January? Probably not. And that is why I think still the MUKHAYLO Mudryk deal makes a lot of sense. Joao Felix is another one that is making rounds. The market still complaining and making noise that Arsenal are really leading that race. They are lying. That is an outright lie. I think everyone wants to ride on the current traffic that has been created by Arsenal as a club. And that is what is happening. You're going to see many stories linking us with players MUKHAYLO and Edu will never sign. If these players are in Brazil, that's a different story, because we know Edu is a big fanatic of Brazilian footballers, and of course he comes from there and he understands the market and all that. But there's so many players that I think Arsenal never gonna be interested in, and they're gonna say we are interested in them because we are the current club. We are leading the Premier League. We are short in terms of squad, and our managers say that all the time, and we have the money. If you're going to go by the spending pattern of the last 3 campaigns, we've got the money to spend, and we've got the money to buy any player that we actually want. So I think many of the publications are going to ride on that. That's why I think Joao Felix to Arsenal is not advanced. We are not close. We're not actually leading the race. I think we have a very good relationship, by the way, with George Mendes, who apparently is the agent of Joao Felix. And we were on the verge of signing Pedro Neto in the summer because of the good relationship we share with his agent, still George Mendes. That doesn't make us front runners. That doesn't make us a priority destination. That only puts us in a position where we can, make a phone call and say, hey, George, can we have Joao Felix? And then he says, look, the guy doesn't want to come to the Premier League, or the guy doesn't want to play for you. He wants to go to PSG, Bayern, or Manchester City. So for now, our priority is MUKHAYLO Mudryk. I'm not disappointed at all. Yes, I want Joao Felix, but I'm not really disappointed at all. Mudryk is another gem. Give him some time. Give him 2-3 years. It's going to be a really big problem for clubs in the Premier League. And actually, when I look at Gabriel Martinelli and how he plays and how he's developing, I feel scared a little bit, and I feel sorry for him, because a player like MUKHAYLO Mudryk, if he arrives through the door in January, probably he's not going to start ahead of you every single minute this campaign. But it's very, very easy for Gabriel Martinelli to be thrown out of the starting lineup by a player like MUKHAYLO Mudryk. He's good, he's fast, he's good in 1v1 situations, he scores the goals outside the penalty area, and most importantly, it is that ability to keep the ball at his feet and attract opponents and create spaces to run into for other players. That's one of the reasons as to why I really, really like him. I've watched him in the UEFA Champions League. I don't watch the Ukrainian League, to be honest. I've seen a few clips of him scoring goals in the Ukrainian League that I really, really don't rate. But in the UEFA Champions League, I've seen what he can do. He is a monster of a forward. So whether Arsenal gets him or not, that won't actually change my opinion about him. he's not a 100 million euro player, but in the next 3-4 years, he can make himself a name and, raise his value even above 100 million euros. And of course, the other advantage is that he's not English. That means right now we don't have to pay for the premium. We don't have to pay any premiums for him, right? And that's why I'd get disappointed when Shakhtar compare him to Jack Grealish. Grealish moved for 100 million because Grealish is English, and and City had to pay the premium. And also clubs like Manchester United that are really, really obsessed about signing English players actually wanted to sign him, so you had to beat a lot of competition in terms of the big boys, in the Premier League. But with MUKHAYLO Mudryk, there are no very big boys on his back right now, and you don't have to pay the ridiculous premium you would pay if we're signing Jack Grealish or anyone. Look, I've seen Jack Grealish linked with Arsenal recently, and that's a deal we should actually stay away from. So MUKHAYLO Mudryk is our priority for January. What do you think about that? No Joao Felix, no Marcus Thuram, no Memphis Depay, no Kudus, but MUKHAYLO Mudryk. Talk to me about that. I would love to get your thoughts and opinions around it. And I think the big debate where I'll have someone join me on who actually needs to come in on the forward line should be in the pipeline as well. So we'll be talking more about these deals later on the podcast. See you soon.